Welcome to the AFCEA Leadership Forum 5-question series. I'm Max Kakis, Defense Editor of Signal Magazine. Our guest today is Kevin Green, Vice President, Defense and Intelligence with IBM Federal in Chantilly, Virginia. Kevin is a retired Vice Admiral in the Navy. He's been with IBM since 2004. He heads up IBM Federal's office that works with defense and intelligence agencies. Before joining IBM, he served for more than 30 years as a naval officer. His final posting before retirement, Deputy Chief of Naval Operations, OPNAV, N3 and N5. During his career as a flag officer, he commanded Naval Forces Southern Command, the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Battle Group, and Naval Training Center, Great Lakes, Illinois. He's a graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, the National War College, and the Naval Postgraduate School. Kevin, welcome to AFCEA. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Max. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, Kevin, you've had a long and distinguished career as a naval officer, both commanding ships at sea and also navigating the shoals of what some would call headquarters operations. Now, out of all of that experience, what would you say are characteristics that mark an individual as a potential leader?
Well, Max, as you know very well, there are lots of different characteristics, but when I'm looking at someone who's a candidate for a leadership position, I'm looking for someone who has a passion for the enterprise, a passion for the business or whatever the work is that we're about to take on. One of the things that I look for in particular is the acceptance and, in fact, the eager acceptance of accountability. Someone who wants to see the project through, someone who understands that it's not about who they're going to become, but what they're going to do.
Right. Now, is that something that carries across between the military and something like a sales function, like the kind that you and your staff do at IBM Federal? Are there places where that overlaps?
I think there are an awful lot of similarities between the two environments. It's about taking charge of a challenge, if you will, of the mission of the unit, whether it's a military mission or it's a business mission.
And out of all of the tool set that you just described to me here, what would you say is the most important skill that a leader should have?
I think the skill that comes with being able to assess the challenge, what is the mission, to really understand it, to be able to see the difference between the to-be state and where we are today, to fashion a plan and to direct that plan through to completion. I think it's a comprehensive skill set, not just one particular characteristic. And something that's also very important in this day and age now, when budgets are tighter, needs are still as critical as ever. Absolutely. It's really about what in the business world, what's our client trying to accomplish? And in fact, what is our client trying to accomplish on behalf of his or her clients, their customer base?
Now, your current job also calls for you to provide leadership in helping IBM to meet the needs of government customers, as you just pointed out. When do you know that your leadership style is working? What are some of the indicators?
I really think there are two ways of looking at it. One of them, of course, is the business results, the measures, the revenue, profit, cost control, those kinds of things. But I think a subtle but very important way of looking at it is in terms of how my leadership style is working, is that I ask myself the question, is this team of leaders that I'm working with coming to me with problems and solutions? Have we established a mutually trustful relationship where they understand the mission and they understand when things are going well or when they're not going well, and they have confidence in me as their leader to be able to bring the issues to me? They also understand the requirement to come up with a part of a solution too.
Is it possible to see their success reflected in your success?
Absolutely. It's all about their success, in fact. And I think a big part of my role as their leader is to ensure that they've got a good sense of what the mission is, what are the expectations, and the resources necessary to carry it out.
Kevin, what was your greatest failure, and what did you learn from it?
Well, in fact, I think the practice of leadership involves a lot of failures. One of mine had to do with, I think, a very challenging assignment in Puerto Rico about a decade ago, where I was sent down to Puerto Rico to help out with a very difficult situation involving our bombing range on the island of Vieques. The initial expectation was that we'd be able to continue range operations there on into the future. In fact, we were not able to do that. After a couple of years of exercises, what became very clear to us is that the long history of operations there and political opposition to the Navy's operations there gave us the necessity, the need to look at different options for conducting fleet training. We knew that we just had simply gotten to the end of the road on that. And so the mission changed from keeping the range to continuing to maintain safety and to find the best possible resolution of the issue. Today, that range is closed. Naval Station Roosevelt Roads is no longer, but in fact, fleet training is being conducted at a very high level, completely satisfying fleet requirements, and the Navy's saving over $300 million a year, not having to spend the money on the ranges down there. So it was a failure in the sense that we were not able to continue range operations, but in fact, it turned out to be a good result for the Navy, for the nation, and in fact for the people of Puerto Rico as well.
And the ability to be able to change and to adapt to a changing situation.
Well, that's exactly right, and I have to say that this was a great example of the strength and wisdom of the leadership of the Navy at the time that I think continues today, but also the understanding that military requirements alone are not sufficient reason for continuing to conduct certain kinds of operations in a particular way. We really had to think our way through it, and I think time has shown that it was the right decision.
Kevin, 3 decades in the military, nearly a decade in the private sector. Who are your heroes?
My heroes, well, everyone has lots of heroes, and even heroes who have very complex stories to tell. But the 3 who come to mind in terms of leadership are, first of all, Booker T. Washington. I've been a lifelong student of Dr. Washington, and his ability to take a vision and to understand all of the hurdles in front of him, and better yet, how to get over those hurdles and how to create a system, what's now Tuskegee University, that removes the veil of ignorance. Another hero, of course, is Lou Gerstner, who brought IBM back from very difficult times in the early 90s by real clarity in his business leadership and understanding what this company is all about. And the third might come as a little bit of a surprise, but one of my lifelong heroes has been General Curtis LeMay. General LeMay in World War II is the commander of the 305th bombing group in England, looked very clearly at the missions assigned and saw that they weren't being carried out very well. They weren't having great mission success. He made for some very real, near-term, and very successful changes in the way that those missions were carried out. Later, as the head of the 21st Bombing Command in the Pacific, much the same thing, and leader of the Strategic Air Command and Chief of Staff of the Air Force. A very complex, brilliant man, brilliant leader, and someone who really cared about getting the mission accomplished and doing the best by the people, and getting the war over with. Win it, get past it, and save lives thereby.
Well, Kevin, on that note, I want to thank you for sharing your insight and perspectives on leadership with us today. We appreciate your support and want to wish you the best of luck on your future endeavors. I'm Max Kakis. You've been watching the AFCEA Leadership Forum 5 Question Series.